This is the future.
DevStream 155 revealed the newest Warframe plus some additional details on their next big update called Sisters of Parvos. But we will not be discussing those here. Instead, we will be focusing on the developer reviewing the guns and melee weapons in the game. We are not just talking about a review here, but they did specifically say that we can expect a lot of nerfs coming in the game. Now, I think it was last month when I did send a proposal on how Digital Extremes should address this issue. It was a very long wall of text from a follower of mine named Root, and he detailed everything that was wrong with the melee system and how it can be fixed without the need of nerfs. Sadly, I haven't heard any reply from Digital Extremes yet, which is why I decided to just share it in video form, because honestly, you guys need to hear every bit of suggestion that the author has to fix the weapon system without lowering the effectiveness of melee weapon. If the developer wants balance in their game, then they should hear these suggestions. So what's the problem with the melee system? The current iteration of Warframe's melee is as follows. Players have a main melee attack that hits contribute towards a combo counter. As the combo counter increases, it charges players' second melee attack and Warframed melee abilities. Heavy attack, a charged up attack that deals one devastating blow. Originally melee was used as a backup in combat, but over the years it has added new mechanics and mods that have boosted the effectiveness of melee. This, in conjunction with players steadily adapting, the function of melee has shifted from being a backup weapon to being the most DPS a player can output. How? Because the melee mechanics were implemented before most of the other mechanics that increase its damage was implemented. The nature of the combo counter and mechanics to have added over time allowed melee damage to scale significantly, but the main reason is 95% of melee damage is output through one button. Melee is overpowered because it has no limitations put in places like guns and Warframe abilities. With guns, the players have to aim, reload, and manage ammunition, as well as weapons having a projectile velocity, because most of the guns in the game are not hit scan. Warframe abilities cost energy to cast, therefore players must manage their energy consumption. Players cannot cast abilities nor shoot their weapons without limitations. This does not apply to melee, and all the damage from Focus, Naraman, Arcanes, mods, Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, Gladiator mod set, Primed Fury, Berserker, Condition Overload, Spoiled Strike, 6060S, and Riven mods are all bound to one button. As long as it keeps the damage of melee relevant in the current melee system and players have immediate access to that 3-hit combo, melee damage will always be more overpowered than the other methods of dealing damage. Why take the time to aim and shoot, or manage and cast my abilities, when I can press one button and destroy the entire room? This doesn't mean that Digital Extremes should add a stamina bar or some other limitation to melee, but rather expand the mechanics of how players use their melee attacks to a multi-button input setup. Instead of melee being limited to mainly one button, allow players to have different attacks bound to more buttons. Refresh the melee mechanics to include new tools the players have acquired over the years, and allow players to develop their signature fighting style. I feel the current melee system provides no real difference between stances and a disconnect between what's happening on screen versus what the player is inputting into their controller, keyboard. The animations look cool but don't feel cool, because I'm only spamming one button. Ultimately, the current melee system being one-dimensional, and the lack of challenging enemies is leading to the feeling of being burnt out that is common among veteran players. So what's the solution, you asked? There are a couple, and we begin with Parazon attacks. The current binding for melee attacks needs to be replaced with attacks that serve a functional purpose but not a main source of damage. Parazon attack is a new mechanic to replace the current binding that is melee attacks. So now when the players have their primary or secondary equipped and press the melee key, instead of doing a 3-hit combo attack, players will now execute a Parazon attack. These attacks are not meant to do a significant amount of damage but instead serve a functional purpose of debuffing the enemy or helping the player close the distance. Think Spider-Man web zipping to enemies or vice versa Scorpion's get over here spear move from Mortal Kombat. There should be a variety of Parazon attack animations the players can unlock and choose from. Parazon attacks should be able to kill low-level enemies but not serve as a tool to clear mobs with. Parazon attacks will serve as the player's opening move when initiating during melee combat and also as a combo connector between combos. With the Parazon gaining increased functionality, it will gain 3 mod slots in addition to the 3 slots already available for hacking and mercy. Mercy kills will be remapped to the Parazon attack button. This Parazon attack system could be the one to proc the increased critical chance, critical damage, status chance, and other debuffs that could be added in your next attack, plus other utility like pulling targets in one spot. Next, Digital Extremes should completely rework their traditional melee controls. What the author is suggesting is that it should have the usual light attacks, heavy attacks, then accompanied now with guard breakers, reversals and blocking. Light attacks will be the main attack players use when in melee combat, representing the melee attacks players use in the current melee setup. Light attacks will be bound to a key like R in PC, or box in PlayStation. Heavy attacks will be slower, more precise attacks that pack more punch and potentially stagger enemies. The players can use these attacks alongside light attacks in the new setup. The current heavy attack in the game as of right now will be renamed and repurposed as guard breaker attacks. Heavy attacks will also be bound in another key. Guard break attacks will function like the heavy attacks currently in the game, charged attacks that deal devastating damage, and are used to break enemies, Warframe's guard, stunning them and allowing players to perform combos on enemies that would otherwise block or parry. Reversal attacks. Guard breaker attacks will keep the same binding for all platforms. Reversals is a new mechanic I've come up with to allow players to break the flow of attacks from enemies or other Warframes in dueling. Players will be able to perform a reversal by inputting a specific key combination. Reversal attacks will cost energy to perform, therefore they must be used sparingly and will give the Warframe a moment of super armor, allowing the Warframe to absorb a hit that would otherwise stun them or a hit from an enemy combo, then allow the player to counterattack. Players must develop the skill to use reversals effectively. These animations should leave the Warframe vulnerable should the player mistime the attack or try to spam the reversal. And lastly, blocking should remain mainly the same as currently in game as far as blocking angles and negating 100% damage. However, melee weapons should have a blocking proficiency where they can block 100% of the damage. But after several consecutive hits the player's block will be broken and they will be vulnerable to attack and incoming fire. A block gauge meter should be displayed when blocking. Each melee weapon should receive a blocking proficiency stat and the proficiency should be respective to the weapon's nature. Sword and shield should have more block proficiency than dual daggers or war fans. There should be mod additions to help to block proficiency. Guard break attacks should break guards regardless of mods applied. Now with the new melee setup in mind, they will be able to flush melee combos out to more than just one button, which will help differentiate combos and make them feel more unique. It will effectively rid Warframe of the current meta of mashing one button to kill everything instantly while giving players more control over which attacks they perform. The Warframe melee attack animations on the screen should feel more in tune with what players are inputting into their controllers, keyboards. Now let's talk about combos and stances. Combos will have more varied combinations in length and difficulty. Players learn and play at different paces. Therefore the combo system should be open to allow players of different skill levels to interact and benefit from the mechanics. The new combo system will have 2 main parameters for landing a combo. One, island that players must land the first and last hit of the combo string, and 2, players must land at least half of a combo string. These parameters will allow players learning the new system to make mistakes, miss attacks and still benefit. However, when players develop their skills they will be able to take advantage of these parameters. For example, there are 2 enemies in front of the player. The player executes their Parazon attack and then hits the enemy on the left with attack 1. Then the player hits the enemy on the right with attacks 2, 3, and 4, then the player hits the enemy on the left with attack 5, ending their combo string. The player has only input 1 combo string into their controller, keyboard, but because of these parameters, it will count as 2 combos. These parameters don't just serve as an accessibility mechanic, but will also shift, grow with the player as their skills develop. Skilled players will be able to min-max this combo system. Players can of course hit both enemies with all 5 attacks, but it will only count as 2 combos. 1 combo per enemy per combo string. An enemy hit with a full combo will only count as 1 combo landed. 5 enemies hit with 1 full combo equals 5 combos landed. If the player lands a combo and the enemy is still alive and then the player inputs another combo string and lands the combo, it will count as another combo so long as the parameters have been met. 5 enemies hit with 2 full combos equals 10 combos landed. The parameters are in place to help the player still benefit if they miss attacks. That is how players will land combos. Now to the benefits of landing combos. Explained in Stance Proficiency segment, successful Parazon attacks after a successful combo will allow shots fired for 10 seconds to add time to combo damage. This will have diminishing returns. Now that combos have more variation options, the stances will change from them only offering a visual animation and IPS damage proc application difference, to the stances offering the players more methods of attacks. The stance animations should no longer determine which type of IPS is afflicted upon enemies. This should be solely determined by how the player mods their melee weapon. The stance animations should offer a functional difference to the player by catering to different playstyles. There will be stances that cater towards light attacks, fast consecutive attacks combos reminiscent of the stances currently. Light attack stances will offer short and easy combo strings to allow the player to easily meet the combo parameters. Then there will be stances that cater towards heavy attacks, wide-arching strikes, area of effect slams. Heavy attack stances will have combos with fewer consecutive attacks but more powerful strikes. Heavy combos will be slower than most other attack combos. Players will have to develop skills to master the timing of the animations to maximize effectiveness. Last but not least, stances that cater towards air combos, offering pop-up attacks that can knock multiple enemies in the air. Air combos to juggle enemies, then yeet them with heavy attack finishers. Air combo stances will require the most out of players, because the air combos used in combination with Parazon attacks will allow skilled players to remain in the air for extended periods and offer the most control over enemies within combat. Alley-oop is a basketball term for when a player passes, throws the ball off the backboard and another player catches then dunks the ball. Certain stances will now have these alley-oop attacks, where Warframe A does a launching attack knocking an enemies into the air for Warframe B, that will bullet jump to the target and perform the finishing yeet attack. Alley-oop attacks will be the ultimate display of cooperation between Warframes in sync with each other's fighting styles. Alley-oop attacks will also be able to be performed with players' Q-brows and cavats if the player has the appropriate mods equipped on their companion. Successful alley-oop attacks will result in a combo for both players. If the attack is performed using a companion, the player will receive combo damage and the companion will receive a damage bonus. In addition, stance must have this thing called Proficiency. When the players land a combo, they will receive a set percentage combo damage bonus. The damage bonus is determined by the stance's rank proficiency. Stances will now have a new mechanic that allows players to rank up stances as they perform the appropriate amount of combos and reach the kill threshold for that rank. Once players reach the requirements to rank up the stance, they will be able to take a proficiency test. Proficiency tests will work very much like mastery rank tests. The bullet points are the requirements to take the proficiency tests. Once met, players then take the test, pass it, then the mod will be of appropriate rank. The rank proficiency is bound to the individual stance mod, not to the player nor the melee weapon. This will make high-ranked stances have more value in the market economy, as well as provide a hustle for players, especially those that have not unlock-driven mods/challenges, to make some quick platinum. When trading ranked stance mods, the rank will remain, but the player receiving the ranked mod must reach half of the kill threshold and perform half the specified amount of combos before combo damage will be activated. For example, Rank 1 will give players a 10% bonus damage when they land a combo. Rank 2 will give a player 20% damage bonus for 20 seconds. If the player lands another combo within that initial 20 seconds, it becomes a 40% damage bonus. Rank 3 will give a 30% damage bonus for 30 seconds. If the player lands another combo, it becomes 60%. If the player lands another combo, it then becomes a 90% damage bonus. Then at rank 4, a 40% damage bonus for 40 seconds. The player can land 3 additional combos for a maximum of up to 120% damage. And lastly, at rank 5, they will deal a massive 50% damage bonus for 50 seconds. The player can land 4 additional combos for a maximum of up to 250% damage. The key feature of the new combo and stance systems, the combo damage from successful combos, is shared with primary and secondary weapons. The combo damage must be shared with primary and secondary weapons to change the relationship between guns and melee. Currently, guns and melee have an opposing relationship for player usage. The combo damage being shared will change that to a symbiotic relationship. The mechanics will now be codependent and players will be encouraged to use their primaries and secondaries in conjunction with melee combos. The nature of the stance proficiency system and combo damage will reward players' skills immediately by giving them additional damage, while the proficiency system rewards players' time put in to acquire the skills with a higher threshold for damage. These systems will also allow players that gain confidence in their ability to perform combos to have more flexibility when modding their weapons. Some of the mandatory damage mods required for weapons to do significant damage may no longer be mandatory for players with max proficiency stances and the skills to boot. These systems are part of the major changes that will increase the lenticular design of the Warframes, and how players' builds will evolve. Also, Parazon talks about Warframe ability combos, with the combo and stance systems working to bring primary and secondary weapons into the flurry of attacks. Warframe ability combos will interweave Warframe abilities into melee combos. Ability combos will allow players to cast their abilities while keeping the flow, momentum. Ability combos will be limited to Warframes using their signature weapon type. All Warframes will have a signature melee weapon type assigned to them. Some Warframes will be more adept in melee combat. Therefore they may have more than one signature weapon type. So basically what this feature does is emphasize signature weapons of a Warframe, and when they wield them, they can perform various combinations that includes their abilities and their combo. And lastly, the melee system should have custom stances. These are the culmination of all the new melee mechanics to provide players with the opportunity to create and master their unique fighting style. When players unlock a custom stance, they will be allowed to choose individual combos from separate stances within the same weapon type. For example, players that unlock a custom Nikana stance will have the option to choose the individual melee combos from all the Nikana stances. Only combos with different button combinations can mesh together. Cannot have different combos with the same inputs, because these combos are bound to different buttons, combinations. This is an example of a custom stance that will be available to set. Players will also choose which ability combo animation for their stance if said stance matches the Warframe's signature weapon type. Altogether, players can now choose their Parazon attack animations, individual melee combos, the Warframe ability combo animations, if applicable, and any pop-up, or alley-oop launching, takedown attacks within those stances. So that wraps up all suggestions of Parazon on how Digital Extremes should change the melee system. It may sound complex, but honestly, I find these suggestions great since it dilutes the one-sided mechanic of the melee system, which is just pushing a couple of buttons and win. I just hope that Digital Extremes will see these suggestions, and I would like to ask your help to share these suggestions. The link to the whole document is at the pinned comment, and I'm asking for your help to spread these awesome suggestions. Just simply copy the link to the document below and tag Digital Extremes or paste it to your social media platform and let them know about these awesome suggestions for the melee system. All credits go to Parazon for giving such detailed suggestions for the melee system. I just hope that Digital Extremes would see this. Let me know in the comments section what are your thoughts about the current melee system, and if you would like these suggestions to be in the game. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.
Evolution. This is the future.